All right, welcome back, guys. Thanks for coming around. Today is day 21 of the Sparky build. And as you can see, I've got the tissue starting to go on. Yay! Tissue starting to go on. Got real excited last night after I got that first coat of white on the tail, and I decided I had to try out some graphics. And I did a really sloppy job. But I guess it only looks slightly like a Mexican piñata, so I think it'll be okay. Once I get that color scheme on the whole thing and it's in the sky, you won't know the daggone difference, right? As long as the covering's tight and it stays on. I got to pop up the Thermalizer hinge installed. That's a piece of guitar string. I'm not sure if that's a B or a G string. It's probably a B. I bet you it's a B. And the way that works is pop up. That's right. Pop up. Oops. So there will be a string attached here. We'll run to a tube here that goes into the fuselage, up to the front, and there'll be a timer up there to release it, so that we don't have any flyaways. I've had a few flyaways before. This will be my first plane with a Thermalizer. I think it's probably going to need it. I had a few different choices for coverings. I decided to go with domestic tissue. It's easy to get. It's easy to work with. Not that store-bought tissue is hard to get, but there's like really no, there's really no other choices. It's all domestic tissue really when you get right down to it. So I went out to Walmart and bought this. Did not wind up using it because I had some Hallmark tissue that I had bought about 20 years previous that I liked the color slightly better. So I went with this, the Hallmark tissue. Hallmark. Oh, really hard to say. Really hard to say. If you say Walmart, Hallmark. Anyway, so we got domestic Hallmark tissue on the airplane. My other choices were the SIG tissue. Got this SIG tissue here. Let me show you this stuff. This stuff is it's strong tissue, but that might be its downfall because it's kind of hard to work with. It's very porous. It's got a lot of holes in it. It's really porous. You really got to use a lot of dope to seal that up. So I did not go with that. I also had this very fine, very nice Isaki tissue. I got 3 or 4 sheets of this. I understand there's only a couple of thousand sheets left on the whole planet. This stuff is really fine, tightly grained, very nice slick finish on one side. Just really nice stuff. And if I had gone ahead and used that on here, and I don't even think I'd have had enough of it, although I do know somebody who's got 1,000 sheets, but you can see right through it. It's just very, very fine, delicate paper. I'm going to save this for smaller models. And it's not quite as bright white as this Isaki, as you see. I don't know if you can see the difference in colors, but this is a little bit, yeah, there you go. It's a little bit yellow, a little bit on the yellow side, and that might be because of its age. This is like 30-year-old paper. Of course, this other white paper here is also 20 years old, but it's still nice and bright white. So I went with that. And I decided to attach the paper with dope rather than thinning Elmer's glue. And the reason I like to do it that way is because if you use glue, it just creates a gluey mess. If you ever have to replace the paper and you want to get it off, you're going to have to sand it off. If you use dope, you can just go around the edge with some thinner, soak it in thinner, and the paper will peel off. No problem. But if you use glue, it's on there. You're gonna have to sand it off, and the structures are so delicate that you know, you're gonna mess. It's just not a good way to do things. So I don't like to do it that way anymore. The only other thing I'd probably do is I shrink with water. I like to shrink with water. Also, once I get it tacked down around the edge, before I shrink it, I'll let it dry and I'll trim it with a razor blade flush. No overhang. Trim it flush. And if there is any overhang, spit on your finger and work it down with your finger and some spit. I found that spit works best. I know it, you know, it sounds kind of gross. You don't want to swallow. You don't want to get any of these chemicals in your mouth either. But spit works best. I've tried water. I've tried alcohol. I've tried thinner. Spit, spit, spit on it, and you can work those edges right down just like a nice piece of paper mache. So I shrink it with water, and then it's going to shrink again when you coat it with dope. You're going to do 2 or 3 coats of very lightly thin dope on this. I think I've got 2 on here now. You can barely even tell there's anything on there at all. It's 2 coats of dope. Wow, that color looks a little yellow when you get up close to it with the camera. But anyway, that's, oh, I see. You can see through. You're seeing the corkboard color underneath through the paper, and it looks yellow. Funny. So anyway, once it's shrunk with paper and you dope it, the thing you got to be careful with after you've worked down your edge, and you got to seal the edge. You're going to seal it with 2 or 3 more coats of dope, real good, around the edge before you touch the middle, right? Okay, then you shrink the middle with water, and then you're going to shrink it more with dope. When you put your coat of dope on there, it's going to shrink a little bit more. But when you put it on, don't touch the edge, because if you touch the edge will loosen and you lose all your shrinking. It just back up. It'll you know, unstick, and so all of your shrinking will have been for naught. And so you don't go within about a 1/4 inch of that edge when you redope the edge, but make sure you seal the edges real good, far enough in that you don't have to touch the edge again. So anyway, that's where we're at on this. I still got to order that Thermalizer. I'm not too worried about that though. We can do initial flights without the timer in place, and we're getting real close to being finished. And so come back and see us again next week, and we'll probably have a finished airplane sitting here. Thanks a lot, guys.